few years ago, I took a trip overseas to Ireland. As the plane was landing, I was struck by the color green. It was like the color was entirely reinvented to me since seeing the never-ending waves of green grass, bushes, and trees. All of a sudden, after that revelation, green stands to remind me to appreciate the life and wilderness of the world around us. I think too often we forget how wild the earth can be in our mundane lives, and it's important that we remember that there is more to life than human creations. The stories that I have chosen to accompany my point all share the same theme of wildness that the color green stands for, and reminds us that there is still wildness everywhere we look, even when we are caught up in our day-to-day tasks. To begin, I would like to start with a story that is actually a documentary about Jane Goodall. She is a renowned and beloved primatology scientist who was known as one of the first scientists to ever approach studying chimpanzees in their natural habitat. Jane understands the wildness in this world a lot more than most of us do. Through the documentary, you watch Jane fall more and more in love with the wildlife of chimpanzees. She even ends up leaving her life behind in England, marrying her videographer, and moving to Africa to be closer to her life's work. Jane's story is one of an ordinary woman who discovered there is more to life than just the streets and buildings that we've created. The wild and the life within it can offer, for so many of us, a chance to learn. Now to move on to my second story, which is similarly placed in Africa, the book called Out of Africa. Out of Africa takes place in colonial Kenya and follows the interesting life of Karen Blixen. She is a Dutch woman who decides to move to Africa and start a plantation. The center of the novel is a romance, but the underlying theme is one of appreciation towards African culture and the wildlife that they embrace so beautifully. Coming from an upper-class background, Karen learns that a simplistic lifestyle surrounded by the wilderness of Kenya is what she had always been seeking for in her life. The adventures and people she meets along the way add to the wildness and freedom of her journey in life. The final story that I will make reference to is a book called Wild. Wild follows the journey of self-discovery for a woman named Cheryl. Having lost her mother and going through a divorce, Cheryl finds herself uprooted from her life and in desperate need of change. Cheryl decides to hike 1,100 miles of the Pacific Crest Trail, which is no easy feat, even for the most experienced hiker. Putting herself in the hands of the wild nature of the Pacific Crest Trail, Cheryl comes to many different breaking points throughout her journey. What keeps her going are the signs of her past mother she finds in nature that she hikes through along the way. Ultimately, Cheryl finds solace in her time in the wild and finds that she needed to learn how to be alone and to come to terms with herself. The wild teaches her that there is more to life than sadness and heartbreak. In conclusion, the color green is so much more than just a color, and stands for all the beauty and wildness of nature that we overlook so regularly in our lives as humans. Just as Jane, Karen, and Cheryl all find that wilderness offers so much more to be appreciated and learned from, we too should open ourselves up to more green in our lives. Thank you.